Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Zelensky, about Ukraine, because right before Donald Trump started his speech at the Congress, Zelensky published a very interesting article in the internet where he was talking about peace, about truce, about the settlement of the conflict in Ukraine. So this is the statements, and this statement is very important, and we will discuss this in details. I would like to reiterate Ukraine's commitment to peace. None of us wants an endless war. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiation table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. If you remember, this is exactly what Trump and J.D. Vance was demanding from Zelensky to end the war. They were saying that Zelensky doesn't want this war to be ended. Elon Musk stated that Zelensky wants this war endless. So we see that Zelensky is trying to play with this. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. So this is also a very important statement. As you can see, according to this sentence, Zelensky wants to get to get a peace that lasts for, let's say, endless, and he wants to get this under the control of Donald Trump or under his backup or something like this. We are ready to work fast to end the war, and the first stages could be the release of prisoners and truce in the sky, ban on missiles, long-range drones, bombs on energy and other civilian infrastructure, and truce in the sea immediately if Russia will do the same. Then we want to move very fast through all next stages and to work with the US to agree a strong final deal. So this is a very important paragraph in this article, probably the most important one. Once again, if you take a look at this paragraph in details, we see that the Ukrainians, Zelensky, wants to move very fast through all next stages and to work with the US. So as you can see, this is another paragraph in this statement where Zelensky was talking about the United States of America and about nobody else. No, something about Russia, but once again, the main responsibility he tries to put on the shoulders of the United States of America, as if this is the proposal and this is the plan of the USA. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence, and we remember the moment when things changed, when President Trump provided Ukraine with Javelin. We are grateful for this. So Zelensky during this message did exactly the things that he was asked to do when he was in the Oval Office, but something tells me that maybe this paragraph wasn't written by Zelensky himself. Our meeting in Washington at the White House on Friday did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way. It is time to make things right. We would like future cooperation and communication to be constructive. Obviously, the other thing that the United States of America ban arms supply hits Ukraine a lot, and Zelensky himself personally. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it in any time, in any convenient format. We see this agreement as a step towards greater security and solid security guarantees, and I truly hope it will work effectively. So this is the statement that was made by Zelensky right before Donald Trump began his speech in the Congress. During this speech, Trump said lots of things, and he also was talking about Ukraine. We had serious talks with Russia and received signals that they are ready for peace. No one wants peace more than Ukraine. America has sent millions of dollars to defend Ukraine without any security guarantees. Do you want to continue this war for another 5 years? Europe spends more money on Russian gas than on defending Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been senselessly killed in or injured in this terrible and brutal conflict, which has no end in sight. So from this perspective and from this angle, we see that Zelensky and maybe like the team of Zelensky and the team of Trump maybe negotiate before these things, before these publications, and maybe we see like something like a common plan of two countries. But this is not like this. The thing is that several days ago, right after or during the summit in London, a very interesting article was published by the Western media. Let's discuss this article in detail once again. More precisely, this was published by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of France. Britain and France proposed a 1 month partial ceasefire in Ukraine. Details. 1 month partial ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine is expected to cover air, sea, and energy attacks, but will not include ground combat. That was stated by French President and Foreign Minister. European authorities say a temporary ceasefire will help assess how faithfully the President is fulfilling his obligations. They were talking about Vladimir Putin. So as you can see, when talking about Ukrainian, the Zelensky message that was also published during the previous 12 hours, we can see the same thing. So Zelensky proposed to establish ceasefire in air, in the sky, in the sea, and to stop bombings on energy and other civil infrastructure. So as you can see, the plan and the message that was provided by Zelensky, this article, despite the fact that the United States of America and Donald Trump, these words we can see in every single paragraph, has nothing related and has nothing common with the United States and Donald Trump himself. This is the plan of the United Kingdom and France. And if you remember, several days ago, we reported that several politicals from the European countries suggested Zelensky to make a first step and to make something like a step of a goodwill, suggesting and proposing this ceasefire, and then the European countries and the world will take a look at Russia, whether the Russians are going to accept this or not. Obviously, Russia will not accept this, because then the European countries, Zelensky will be able to blame Russia as if they don't want peace, but not Zelensky himself. And we need to understand the main difference between the plan of the settlement of the conflict that the United States of America provide, and the plan that was provided by United Kingdom and France. And the most important difference is that two plans means completely different things. As you can see, Zelensky plan, the plan of UK and France, supposed the partial ceasefire, which means that the Ukrainians will ask or will force or will try to force the Russians and European countries and the States not to attack energy facilities, not to attack Ukraine objects in the sea, ports, infrastructure, and many other objects. But according to UK plan, the clashes along the line of combat contact will continue. So it's like this plan obviously just in Ukraine's favor, because during these months Ukrainians will be able to restore their positions, to replace their losses, to fulfill their stockpiles, and many other things. But plan Trump's means that the beginning of the ceasefire immediately, including every single type of attack on the sea, in the sky, in the water, along the line of combat contact. But this is not acceptable by the Ukrainian side, because if this happens, then Ukraine will be, let's say, in less favorable position, and Russia will have much more powerful and better negotiation positions in comparison with Ukraine. So these are the main differences, and this is the situation. Of course, it's very interesting to see what is going to be next. But today we got another report that the next week the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the President of France are going to go to Washington, where they're going to talk with Donald Trump once again together. Meanwhile, we continue receiving reports that the United States has suspended the delivery of military cargo to Ukraine through the logistics hub at the Żonki airport in Rzeszów, Poland. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirmed. Furthermore, according to information we have, today, this morning, Daily Mail stated that the United States of America ordered the United Kingdom to stop providing Ukraine with intelligence information. I'll remind you that the United States of America stopped providing Ukrainians with this information a day or two ago, and now they try to force United Kingdom to do the same. So as we can see, the situation is very difficult. From the other side, we also received report that rolling Starlink outages have begun in Ukraine. Ukrainian military personnel are recording regular shutdowns of Starlink satellite data terminals along the entire front line, which began almost immediately after Zelensky's visit to the White House. So we see that something is happening. We see once again these political games, and we see that some players are playing this game in dirty way. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first we're going to talk about the Sudzha direction, where the Russians continue the tightening of the news around the Ukrainian Ukrainian positions along the most important arteria at the road NO7. Today, according to different mappers, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to improve their positions on the territory of the settlement by the name of Zhiravka. So let's take a look at how the map was changing. For example, this is the situation by the end of the 3rd of March of 2025. Let's start even earlier. This is the situation on the 2nd of March of 2025. This territory was colored as a contested area. On the 3rd of March, we got geolocations that the Russians managed to capture this territory. On the 4th of March, we received first report from pro-Russian sources that the Russians managed to improve their positions even further. And by the beginning of the 5th of March, the Russians secured the farms on the western side of the settlement. Furthermore, according to most of the mappers, according to pro-Russian resources, according to neutral resources, and according to pro-Ukrainian resources, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish a complete control over these farms, over this small village by the name of Loknya. So this is the situation by the end of the 4th of March. As you can see, this pocket was under complete Ukraine control, but at the beginning, by the beginning of the 5th of March, this territory was completely secured. We still haven't received anything that can confirm this, but if it happened, most likely the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation will confirm this information. And now we understand what the Russians are planning to do next, and most likely, first of all, they're going to move in the eastern direction towards the railways between the settlements of Malaya Loknya and Kazachya Loknya. If the Russians are able to cut the railways and to cut the road between two settlements, then the Ukrainians in the north would be caught in cauldron. But obviously, when the Russians start these movements, most likely the Ukrainians will start retreating towards first the settlement of Kositsa, and then through the forest in the direction of Kazachya Loknya, and then even further in the direction of Sudzha. So we believe that we can start counting days for the Ukrainians, for the Ukrainian bridgehead in the area of Malaya Loknya, where the Russians continue their offensive. Let's discuss the southern part. Today, according to different sources, the Russians also managed to secure the settlement of Kurilovka. The Russians, mainly the neutral and pro-Russian resources, confirmed this information today. And we understand that the next target for the Russians is to move further in the western direction, and currently the primary target, the main priority for the Russians is to establish complete control over the settlement of Milovoy and this big forest. If the Russians are able to take this territory under complete control, then the Russians will be able to shorten the distance to the main supply lines and to the main supply arteria that goes between the settlement of Sudzha and the settlement of Sumu. We are talking about this area. So the situation, as you can see, is worsening and worsening for the armed forces of Ukraine, and obviously before the beginning of the real negotiation process, most likely the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this area, otherwise they would be caught in cauldron and most likely destroyed. Now let's move further. Let's discuss the situation in the Kharkiv direction. Today, neutral mappers reported that the Russians managed to improve their positions along the border and to take under control this military object that used to be something like border facilities, where before the war the Russians and the Ukrainians were transferring the border in this area. So during the previous several days, we've been receiving videos from this area published by the Ukrainian side. For example, yesterday, based on the video published by the Ukrainian side, we have adjusted the most northern part of these facilities, and today neutral mappers confirmed additional progress on the ground. Now let's move further. Let's discuss the situation in the northern Kupiansk direction. Today, according to information we have, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Ukrainians managed to restore control over the forest to the north of the settlement by the name of Zapadne. So this forest was recaptured by the Ukrainians as a result of counter-offensive operation. And this is exactly what we were talking about several days ago. If you remember, a few days ago, the pro-Ukrainian sources published very interesting map, very interesting changes on map that Ukrainians carried out successful counter-attack in the direction of the forest, in the direction of this territory between the river of Raskol and the settlements of Liman Pershi and Sinkivka. And if you remember, we were talking that the main target and the main purpose of this Ukrainian counter-attack to reduce Russian logistic capabilities and to reduce the connections between the western and the eastern bank of the river of Raskol. And we expected that most likely the Ukrainians will try to counter-attack the Russian positions somewhere in the area of Zapadne Zapadne and in the vicinity of Dvorichne. And as you can see, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Ukrainians carried out this counter-offensive operation during the previous several days, and they managed to restore control in the vicinity of Zapadne. So most likely the Ukrainians will continue this offensive operation. This is very important position, very important area for the Ukrainians, and most likely they will do everything they can with the purpose not to allow the Russians to continue their offensive there. Another important area is the southern Kupiansk direction. Today we got very important updates, and we have adjusted the map, as you can see. For example, this is the map by the end of the 4th of March of 2025, and today by the beginning of the 5th of March we got significant number of geolocations that confirm Russian control over this dense network of the fortifications, and this is a complete disaster for the Ukrainians, because now the Russians have very powerful and strong position on the Ukrainian side of the river of Zherebets, and from this area most likely the Russians are planning to continue advancing further in the direction of the city of Liman. And as you can see, when talking about this part, there are no defense barriers in front of the Russians, and this is a greatest disaster for the Ukrainians. Now let's move further. Several sources reported that the Russians managed to improve their positions in the central part of the city of Chasiv as for now, without any geolocations that can confirm this. Pro-Ukrainian sources reported that on the Pokrovsk direction, the Ukrainians, as a result of decisive counterattack, managed to restore control completely over the settlement of Uspenovka. I'll remind you that several weeks ago we discussed and we came to the conclusion that most likely the Russians sooner or later would be forced to fall back from this salient, and because as for now this salient has just one purpose: to secure the flank, the northeastern flank, for those Russian forces that are currently trying to advance in the direction of the border between Donetsk and the river and the region of Dnipro. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.